This video is satire, and none of the views expressed are my own. I disavow everything I said in this ironic, satirical video that should not be taken seriously. The biggest obstacle to authentically right-wing policymaking is the fact that the authentic right wing is not in power, and hasn't been for many, many years. The question of how to remedy that problem is a complex one, but there is a correct answer. Many courses are suggested, oftentimes based on what has worked for similar movements historically. This video will discuss the best way of accruing political power for the right, but not what is to be done with that power. The only focus, at least in this video, is how a dissident right faction or leader might achieve government power. This video is also part 0 in the People State series examining potential rightist government in the United States specifically, but it can also be watched on its own, should you prefer. First, we have to address the elephant and the donkey in the room. The two-party system is a constant thorn in the side of anyone, left or right, that wants to shake up the political situation. In some way, it must be subverted if the dissident right is to take power. There are essentially two ways of doing that. Either one, the GOP, the right-wing party, must be destroyed and replaced by a new, authentically right-wing party, or two, one of the two major parties, again it would likely be the GOP, must be made into a dissident right movement itself. It's understandable that people want to destroy the Republican Party. It is an ungodly amalgamation of libertarians, neoconservatives, big business, and the liberals of 20 years ago. If Democrats proposed a law that would abolish the U.S. in 4 years, the Republicans would negotiate to make it 8 instead, and then Fox News would celebrate like the Declaration of Independence had just been signed. That's not the only thing that the Republican Party is, though. It's also a powerful institution with political pull, public loyalty, and massive fundraising ability. What would happen if the GOP was destroyed? And more importantly, how would such an event happen? It wouldn't occur in a vacuum, after all. Many right-wing commentators, Nick Fuentes, have called for the destruction of the GOP. However, these rightist commentators, Nick Fuentes, never provide an actual understanding of how this would occur and what would happen afterward. So, again, the important question to ask is, 1, how would the GOP really end up being destroyed? And 2, what would end up happening as a result of that? Well, there's no way that the Republican Party would ever disband itself, so it would have to collapse due to an outside cause. When I say collapse, of course, that doesn't mean disbandment, it means a loss of voters and therefore a loss of donors. So what would cause this to happen? Well, an electoral defeat wouldn't do it. Republicans were soundly defeated in 2020 and 2022. Regardless of the legitimacy, they lost the elections. However, voters still came back with the same enthusiasm in 2024, so an electoral defeat wouldn't do it. Instead, a betrayal is more likely to cause discontent among the Republican base. If, after the 2024 administration, for example, promises are broken, the American people are left in the dust again, then, hypothetically, the Republican Party might lose massive support. If half of the GOP's voters, say, which is a truly unthinkable number, but we'll say half, abandon the Republicans in the next election cycle to vote third party, where would they go? There's no suitable right-wing party to flee to. Most of them would go to the Libertarian Party or the Constitution Party, which might debatably be better than the Republicans, but still, they're very liberal organizations. It just kicks the can down the road. Many of them undoubtedly would want to vote for a nationalist ticket, but none currently exists. A party would have to be founded to accommodate these voters, and it certainly would. Actually, dozens of them would be founded. The dissident right is very fragmented because of its weakness currently, and the chaos of a fall of the GOP from grace would see many factions vying to take the most advantage of that chaos. It would take several election cycles for any sort of normalcy to occur, but one thing is guaranteed. A rightist victory would not be the result of this. The right-wing voter bloc would be fragmented into libertarians, Republicans light, and several different stripes of nationalist. None of these parties would have the power, many of them wouldn't even have the desire, to accomplish anything substantial within government or resist leftist incursion. With that being said, the Republican Party has proved something important in its past few election cycles. Americans vote for nationalism, and it is very popular, but they have to be centralized. The party establishment, for its part, despises nationalists and has ridden this current of nationalist sentiment to power, but refuses to act on it. Have you ever thought, gosh, I wish Trump was really as radical as they say he was? People would still vote for him, and then we would actually have a country to pass on to our descendants. I've thought that. What needs to happen is this. Take over the Republican Party. Nationalists need to snake their way up the ranks of power. Party bureaucracy holds massive power that the public mostly doesn't think about. These party officials control the platform, but more importantly, they control where funding goes. By directing money, the GOP establishment can very effectively control even primary races, basically picking candidates they find suitable. Furthermore, once the general election comes around, especially for congressional and state races, the public just votes the party ticket anyway, regardless of who's on it. So all these potential infiltrators would need to do is pick good nationalists to run in elections, at all levels. They don't even need to be outspoken with their beliefs. The left constantly runs candidates who advertise themselves as just moderate progressives or liberals wanting small social changes and a little bit more spending. They get into power, and then they pass the most absurdly degenerate Marxist legislation imaginable and win re-election. Right-wingers could do the same thing, actually. Yes, hello, I'm a fiscal conservative who wants tax cuts and to protect 2A rights, and now I'm in office. All right, here's a motion to repeal the Civil Rights Act and criminalize gay marriage and put landmines on the border. Whether a candidate is openly or secretly nationalist, they need to be nominated to every office possible to get nationalists in as county commissioners and district attorneys, all the way up to the level of congressmen, governors, and eventually the president. But would Republicans really vote for a candidate like this? Of course they would, don't be silly. Remember that Donald Trump won in 2016 saying things that were unthinkable by mainstream standards. He won in 2024 saying, mass deportations now. Trump inspired more political enthusiasm and loyalty in 2016 than any American politician in many years. His influence and popularity waned a little bit. He didn't have as much enthusiasm in 2020 and 2024, but that's not because he was too extreme. It's because he didn't follow through on his extremism. The point of highlighting Trump is not to praise or to disparage him. The point is to illustrate that nationalism is popular with Americans if it is packaged right. They will vote for a nationalist if he's on the ballot. Getting the vote is not the hard part. The hard part is getting the nationalist on the ballot in the first place. Americans don't vote third party. On the conservative side, the reason is simple. They understand that only one of the two main parties can win, so they vote the GOP ticket to avoid the greater evil, even if there were to be a third party which aligns with their values more closely. Trump proved that when the GOP nominates a nationalist, remember, he packaged himself as a solid third-position candidate in 2016, the base will turn out. Many apolitical people also turned out for Trump and voted for the first time, because nationalism wins. It just has to be perceived as having a chance to win. It has to be from the Republican Party. This is the advantage of taking over the GOP rather than founding a new party. The infrastructure and brand recognition is already there. In the mind of the voter, party abandonment or political reshuffling won't be an issue. It will just appear that the party they've always supported is taking a stronger stand for its values. They won't think that they're changing their political position. Using the Republican Party as the vehicle to deliver nationalism to the halls of power all but guarantees the support of the moderate right and their millions of regrettably necessary votes. What's true for the president is true for Congress and a law of nature for state and local races. Voters will vote the party line down ballot, and this fact can be used for the right's benefit instead of being complained about. Ironically, this would effectively destroy the Republican Party, though not technically. It would still exist as a skin suit to make nationalism appealing and mainstream for the voters. However, the godforsaken and treasonous swamp monster of a party would well and truly die, if all these things were to happen, replaced by a truly nationalist and unabashedly pro-American organization. Perhaps eventually the party could even be renamed, but that's not an important issue. So how is this actually accomplished? Well, I want to remind everyone that this video is very satirical. Everything I've said is a joke, and actually I'm making fun of everything that I've said. Got it? Got it. It's very simple, actually. Republican parties at the state and local levels are very starved for manpower. They recruit lots of volunteers. Be one. They love seeing hardworking youth volunteering and showing up for the party. Don't be overt about your intentions, obviously. Show up ready to fight for America and help President Trump, or what have you. You'll lose your position if you start spouting third positionist rhetoric right off the bat. All you need to do is show up and work hard. The most reliable and skilled volunteers move up the ranks. They get to sit on party governance boards or manage various efforts such as fundraising or canvassing. The name of the game is advance, advance, advance. Do the party's work and do it well, and whenever possible, give fellow nationalists a leg up. The right should combine the ideas of Antonio Gramsci and the entire nation of India. Embark on a long march through the institution of the Republican Party, and then only hire people like you. Doing this for a long enough time will ensure a rightward swing in the Republican Party, and, God willing, eventually a truly nationalist government. Once a nationalist president and Congress is in place, anything could happen. The point of this video is not to suggest what should be done with power, just the means of achieving it. Thank you for watching.